Hi, this is Mary H.K. Choi, and I'm here to give you 5 reasons to be riveted by YOLK. Okay, 1. Obviously, please look at this cover. Chillo. I was so lucky to have the inimitable, the legendary, the indefatigable, incredible person, Gigi, who does all my covers, do YOLK as well. And obviously she is such a legend. It is honestly a little bit rude. And she loves a conceptual interactive cover, so please check this out. Can you even cope? Plus the meta narrative, hello, the relationship, the bonds that sort of grow and stretch and sometimes, dare I say, snap, but then come together. This book is, it's about sisters, which brings me to number 2. It's about Jane and June, 2 sisters who hail from Texas and land in New York and don't even speak to each other. It is that sort of fraught relationship where you love each other so much that it sort of leaves you really vulnerable. And, you just seek each other's approval. You want to be like just super tight. And when you're growing up, that means like a lot of situations in which that you feel like abandoned, or someone says the wrong thing one time and then you're like butthurt till infinity because like the stakes just feel so high. And those stakes only get higher when you move to New York and everybody's just trying on their new personality. Which brings me to number 3, New York. Big, huge presence in my life, big, huge character in this book. It's pre-pandemic New York, which means everyone's just out here making out, kissing each other up on their faces with their open faces. Like it just feels so tawdry and like seductive. But it also is that thing of like, what happens when you're super ambitious and you land in the place that you've always been pining to land? And then what happens? Like, does expectation meet the reality of your very imperfect fledgling self who's just trying things out and trying to find your way and like get situated, and how hard that is and how indifferent New York can be to your ambitions and your struggles. But it's also just like riding a giant dragon in like a Miyazaki movie, because once you sort of hit that rhythm and it's just like you're not swimming upstream and you and New York are just like careening together, like how wonderful that feels. The other thing, I think it's 3, is Patrick, the love interest in this book, is really hot, like super hot, like upsetting. Like I made him up and I'm just still like, how even? He also has the best apartment, which I think is like reasons 1 through 5 for most things. Like he has the best furniture. It's in the East Village. It's his mom's, so it has like really impeccable, just flawless taste. And he also has just mountains and mountains and mountains and mountains of books. And what is like the biggest turn on than like going to someone's apartment that they own in New York, and it's just full of wonderful books. The other thing, I keep losing count. I think it's, let's call it 5 IDK. Glorious Texas. Like Texas is also a character in this book, and it's something like I love that place, but when I was leaving, it was that whole thing of like, I don't like this place. Let's blow this pop stand. But it's just that like magic of how heavy the sky feels on your shoulders, how just like profoundly vast that place is, and how it's indifferent to you in a different way that's kind of almost reassuring. And it's a little bit like being adrift at sea. And when you're coming from New York, where it's all just like me, or like schedules and I'm late for this and like relevance and blah blah, and you go to Texas and it's just like, sometimes it's like the Men in Black light for me, where I'm just like, oh yeah, does any of this even really matter? So those are 5. It might be 5, but I'm going to tack on another one, because the other thing I really wanted to talk about is just bodies and being a woman. And that's a huge part of this book. I've struggled with disordered eating and body dysmorphia pretty much my whole life. And that is a big theme in this book. June gets sick. She has to borrow Jane's health insurance. Ipso facto, they change identities. And while June is sick, the thing that we don't really notice is that Jane is also sick. And so she struggles with a lot of the same things I struggle with. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about that frankly. Like, you know, Permanent Record was all about like anxiety, expectation, fame, but also really about student loans and just some gnarly stuff about growing up that we don't really talk about so much. Permanent Record was Emergency Contact was a sweet love story, but in a lot of ways like that too was about like sexual trauma, agency, trust, growing up poor, like not trusting your parents necessarily. And YOLK is about periods. It's about pain. It's about just how nerve-wracking it is to have a body and to have expectations around that body and to have the, you know, the pressure of the male gaze and all of that, especially when you like want to be impressive or you want to like be an adult and like all this stuff. And so that is infinity reasons to check out YOLK. I don't know what yours will be, but I cannot wait to find out. Let me know how you're riveted by this book and I'll be so pumped. Thank you.